Hey everybody. I decided that what I'm going to start doing is I want to start doing these, just these weekly videos. Especially because, with everything that's going on, there's so much just craziness out in the world. There's so many things that are uncertain that I just kind of had this thought of maybe, putting out these little videos, maybe trying to help some people get a little bit more inspiration, a little more hope at this time of uncertainty. As well, I'm gonna have I have a YouTube channel I'm gonna be putting these videos to as well, just because I want as many people as possible to be able to see these. And once again, my hope is that I'll be able to provide a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of hope, maybe even just some maybe provoke some thoughts in others as they watch this. So I hope that you'll join me every week as I do this. I'm hoping that it is something that helps out you as well as even me. If you see me look down, it's because I do have some notes of just of different topics that I've discussed. That throughout these notes, I just kind of want to refer to these. So for today, anybody who can kind of see the video, I did the thought that I had today. I call it beating the odds, just because of some of the things that have come to my mind. So I want you guys to picture this 3 years ago, February 5th, 2017. It was a day that was a little bit interesting for me. I know it wasn't like that for everybody. But on that day, that was Super Bowl Sunday. It was Super Bowl 51. And it was the Patriots against the Falcons. Anybody who knows me knows that I am a huge Patriots fan. And so looking forward to this game, whenever they're in the Super Bowl, I look forward to it. Always nervous, everything like that. And as that game started and as things were going on in that first half, things were not looking good for my team. They were not looking good for the Patriots at all. There was a fumble, that had been recovered by Atlanta. Tom Brady threw an interception that went back for a touchdown. It was bad enough to the point that at halftime, the Falcons were beating the Patriots 21-3. And I'll tell you what, at least for me personally, that was an emotional. It was an emotional first half. During the third quarter, Atlanta had scored again, making the score 28-3. Now, up until this point in time, the largest deficit that had ever been overcome at halftime in a Super Bowl was 10 points. And here the Patriots were down 25. With about 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter, there was actually a 99.7% chance that the Atlanta Falcons were going to win the Super Bowl that day. To me, that is 99.7% chance. It's a certainty. They're going to win. Well, with just a little over 2 minutes left in the third quarter, New England scored their first touchdown. And what happened in the fourth quarter went into the history books, at least as far as football is concerned. What seemed like an impossibility at the beginning was completely turned on its head. There once again 99.7% chance that New England was going to lose. There was no way they were going to win. Well, New England was able to come back and score 4 times before the end of the game, so that when time ran out at the end of the fourth quarter, it was tied 28-28. Then New England got the ball in overtime, and they were able to drive down the field and score that touchdown to win the game 34-28. And I know that now some of you are probably thinking, well, this is supposed to be an inspirational thing. Like, why did he start talking about a Super Bowl? What does the Super Bowl have to do with any of this? Well, I want you to think about those odds once again. I want you to think about the odds that New England had in that third quarter. 99.7% chance that they were going to lose. And I want you to think about, your own life. How often has it been that we've felt like we've been down 28-3? How often has it felt like the world has given us a 0.3% chance of winning at that moment? During those times, has the thought ever crossed your mind that there's no way, it's impossible for you to possibly come out on the other side stronger, I guess you could say, as a champion on the other side. With all those questions, I'm sure that all of us have felt like that at some point in our life. And if you're saying that you haven't felt like that, then I invite you to look back on your life and really think about it, because I really do believe that all of us have felt like that at least once. I mean, I know that, at least for me personally, I know that I have personally felt the crushing weight of the world that has come at times. And when those times come, we tend to call them by different names. We call them challenges. We call them adversities, trials of our faith. But one name that has always kind of stuck out to me when it comes to these times is, a lot of people have known it as going through the refiner's fire. Now, I think about it in that way, just because I know that at some point or other, I'm sure we've all been burned at some point, whether it's been, a major burn or just a slight burn. I know we've all probably felt it. I mean, one experience that I had was, I was probably 14 or 15 years old, and I was getting ready to go to scout camp that summer, but they wanted us as scouts to go ahead and earn the money to be able to do this. And I didn't have a lot of money to go to scout camp. I didn't have a lot of a lot of money that I could just kind of set aside and go to scout camp. So I was looking for ways to be able to set aside that money and go. And one thing that I had actually found to do was, there was a widow in our ward who needed help mowing her lawn during the summer. And so I approached her and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for ways to earn money to go to scout camp. Is it okay if I come every week and I mow your lawn?" And I kind of let her, name the price of how much she thought it would be willing to, how much it was worth to pay me. We agreed to everything. And the next day I showed up and I started mowing her lawn. And I had been doing this about once a week. And it had gone on for about a month, maybe a little bit more, when one day the lawnmower just kind of died on me. I had tried, I pulled the pull string, I had done everything I could think of to try and start it up again. And, one thought I had was, oh, maybe I should, check the oil. I mean, maybe lawnmower somehow ran out of oil. I don't know. Well, as I reached down to check the oil, my hand had actually caught the muffler of the lawnmower, and I'll tell you what, that burn, I don't think I've ever felt a burn as bad in my life. I mean, it was not something that was a very pleasant experience. I ran to this widow's door, and she let me into her house. I let her know what happened. I said, "Hey, this is what happened." I didn't get the lawn finished that day, which I felt terrible about. But she was still nice enough. She paid me the full wage for the day, and then I went home. I had been running water into my hand while I was at her house, but by the time I got home, blisters had formed all over my hand. I mean, it hurt. I really couldn't move my fingers. I couldn't do anything. My hand just hurt so bad. During the next few days, I would put burn cream on my hand. I would cover it up with, as many bandages as I could. And the pain that I was feeling, just that burning sensation in my hand, I could not get it to go away. And it was to the point where I honestly felt like I just wanted to cut my hand off, just cut it off, get it over with, get rid of that pain, just take it away. Well, eventually it did go away. My hand healed up. But about that whole experience, the thing that just stuck to me the most, the thing that fascinated me the most about the whole thing, was the fact that, I had seen other people that had gotten burns, and I'd seen the scars that those burns had left behind. And yet on my hand, I don't have any scars. If you were to look at my hand today, you would never ever know that I ever had that experience. You would never know that I had ever gotten burned. And all that blistered and burned skin was replaced by new skin. And I know that times, especially in times like this of uncertainty, times of these trials, when we're put through that refiner's fire, I guess you could say, the it burns. I mean, it can feel like at times that the pain is just unbearable. That doesn't matter what we do, doesn't matter what we try, we just cannot deal with that pain. There are some things that we might try and do to try and ease that pain and to help ourselves heal, but it just doesn't ever seem like that healing will ever come. I know that for some people, that pain can last your entire life. It's not something that maybe you will feel the relief of it in this life. And I know that pain can range anywhere from losing a job to losing a loved one. It can be a fight that everybody sees, or it can be a fight that nobody sees. Either way, one thing that I know is that while that solace might not come right away, it is still something that will come. And that out of those experiences, if we let them, we can actually become better people. We can become new. I mean, just like the skin on my hand was replaced by this new skin that you would never see any scars, we can become that same person. We can become that new person. I know that, through that, if we allow it, these refiner's fires, they aren't meant to destroy us. They are not meant to weaken us. They are meant to strengthen us and to help us become closer to God. And I know that sometimes it can be hard. I mean, going back to the Super Bowl analogy, how do we deal with that idea that, we're losing? I mean, you can ask my mother-in-law, you can ask, my wife, you can ask anybody who's ever really played any games with me. I hate to lose. And when it comes to losing, I'm not very good at admitting defeat. So at those times when we can feel like we're losing, what do we do? I mean, when you look at the world today, Satan does a very, very good job at telling us that there is no hope left. He does a very, very good job of just getting us to swallow ourselves up in despair. He feeds off that idea that we believe that we cannot win. And, when we look at the world around us and when everything seems to be going against us, it's pretty easy to believe that lie. It's pretty easy to believe that we can't win, especially when everything is barreling down on top of us. I mean, and in those moments, like, why would we believe that we could win? I mean, what evidence do we possibly have that we could possibly, come off as victorious, come off as winners? Well, I'm hoping that, for some people who watch this, if not most of you, I'm sure that anybody who is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is familiar with the story of the prophet Joseph Smith in Liberty Jail. For those of you who might not be familiar with that story, I'm just going to kind of break it down a little bit. Joseph Smith, I believe he was a prophet of God. He was called to restore the Church of Jesus Christ in the earth, and because of that, he was persecuted. I mean, because of the things that he claimed to have seen and the things that he claimed to have received, he was persecuted. Not even just by strangers, but by those who should have been his friends. At one point in time, he was thrown into a place called Liberty Jail. And the cell that he was thrown into was this little hole down in the basement. Windows were not very big at all. And winter time was approaching. And at the point when a lot of this was happening, I mean, he was down there with a few other people that were following, that were followers of his, and yet there he was down in this cell. He didn't have any way of getting warm. They didn't, the guards didn't really provide him with any blankets. The blankets that they did give him were so thin that they really didn't do much. So all the prophet had, and those that were with him, all they had were these thin blankets and the clothes on their backs to try and keep warm. Once again, winter was approaching. In fact, they were in this jail cell all throughout the winter, and all around them, darkness was gathering, both physically and spiritually. At the time as well, Joseph Smith knew that on the outside of Liberty, on the outside, and in the world out there, all of the members of the church that he had helped restore were also facing persecutions. I mean, they were being driven from their homes. There were some that were being killed. All of their belongings were being burned. Everything was going against them. And I'm sure that the weight of the welfare of those that were with Joseph, as well as those members of the church, fell upon him. And I'm sure that at this time, he felt as if they were going to lose, and there was no time left to come back and win. I can just hear the despair in Joseph's voice as he prayed, "O God, where art thou? And where is the pavilion that covereth thy hiding place? How long shall thy hand be stayed, and thine eye, yea, thy pure eye, behold from the eternal heavens the wrongs of thy people and of thy servants, and thine ear be penetrated with their cries? Yea, O Lord, how long shall they suffer these wrongs and unlawful oppressions, before thine heart shall be softened toward them, and thy bowels be moved with compassion toward them?" How often in our lives have we said that same prayer? How often have we turned to God because we just felt this crushing darkness all around us, because we felt this sorrow and despair, and we didn't have hope? How often has the adversary come into our lives and taken those moments and made them feel even so much worse than they were? I'll tell you what, throughout my life, I know that I have found myself in these times a lot. One thing that I'm sure many of you, or some of you, know now, is that in my life I have lived with anxiety and depression. In fact, it's something that I still do fight with today. And there are some days that are good. There are some days that it seems like everything just falls into place. Everything is perfect. The world is great. The sun is shining. Everything is bright. There are other days when it's not like that, though. There are days that I feel like I am in my own Liberty Jail, when darkness and depression, when it seems like everything is just collapsing around me. On those days, I get feelings in my heart, like I'm lonely. Like there's just this aching loneliness that it doesn't matter how many people I surround myself with, it just doesn't go away. On those days, it's a fight, just to get out of bed and do the simplest tasks, because I just feel so exhausted. And many times I can feel that there are thoughts that creep into my mind that I'm not good enough, and that even God doesn't love me. And I'm sure that all those who have dealt with anxiety and depression, I'm sure they've had moments that are very similar to that. But in those moments, I like to think about what happened with Joseph Smith afterward. Because in that moment of complete despair, when he was in Liberty Jail, at that moment when he was crying out, "Oh God, where art thou?" I'm sure he heard what in that moment seemed like the most comforting words he would ever hear. "My son, peace be unto thy soul. Thine adversity and thine affliction shall be but a small moment. And then if thou endure it well, God shall exalt thee on high. Thou shalt triumph over all thy foes." In this moment of darkness and hopelessness, when all seemed lost and there was none left to comfort him, Joseph Smith received the greatest comfort from an all-knowing and all-loving Father in heaven. I know that in those moments, we will all have moments when all hope is lost. When it seems that all hope is lost, I should say. We'll have those moments when we feel like, we are down 28-3. Time is expiring. We have no hope left. There is no way for us to come back and possibly win. And yet I know that in those moments, just like it happened with Joseph Smith, I know that in those moments we too will be able to hear the comforting words from our Father in heaven, from our God. "Peace be unto thy soul." Because our adversity and our afflictions are also for just a small moment. Especially right now with everything that's happening in the world. I mean, I'm sure all of us are being affected in some way by COVID-19. Whether it's because we've lost our jobs, whether it's whether we know people who currently have it and are suffering with it, or whether, we're just thinking, how am I going to make it day to day, not knowing if there's going to be enough food at the grocery store. In these moments, especially right now, I know that God is looking for us to turn toward Him. He is looking for us to come to Him, because He knows that even though we might feel like there's a 99.7% chance that we're going to lose, even though He knows that we feel like that we are down 28-3 and that we have no hope left, He is the one that is in charge. He is the one that is guiding us, and He is the one that knows us. He knows that our days are numbered, and they will not be numbered less. He knows our weaknesses as well as our strengths. And as we turn toward Him, I know that He will turn our weaknesses into strengths. All victory and glory is brought to pass unto you through your diligence, faithfulness, and prayers of faith. I testify that we will never ever receive a fight that we can't win. That in these times right now, when all hope seems to be fading, I testify that the Lord is with us. He's mindful of us, and He is watching out for us. He is preparing a way that we will be able to overcome this challenge, that we will be able to overcome anything that is thrown at us. I know that for a fact, because I have received His strength in my life. I have heard the voice of His Spirit in my life. And I know that He loves each and every one of us. He knows each and every one of us personally. And He will never ever give us a fight that we cannot win. I want to, I do thank everybody who tuned into this little video. I'm hoping that these thoughts help somebody out there. As well, if you didn't have the chance to watch from the beginning, I hope that you'll go back and watch this video, and I hope that you'll be able to find some inspiration and some hope through it. Once again, I know that our Father in heaven loves us. I know that He knows us each personally. I know that He sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to die for us so that we might live. And I know that one day, all of the pain, all of the trials, and all the afflictions that we are dealing with in this life will go away. I have come to learn this for myself, and I know that anybody can learn that too if they will turn to God. I leave these thoughts with all of you, along with my prayer that the Lord will be with all of you, His Spirit will lift you up and will guide you, and that each and every one of you will be able to feel of His love. And this I do in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.